Welcome to another episode of Mission Compliance, unleashing growth potential for defense contractors. In today's episode, we're putting the spotlight on Microsoft Intune, the superhero of endpoint management and security. We'll explore how Intune stands out in managing and securing endpoints across diverse platforms, delve into the practical examples of leveraging conditional access policies for enhanced security without sacrificing productivity, and discuss how Intune continually evolves to tackle emerging cybersecurity threats. Join us as we unravel the secrets behind Intune's role in safeguarding the defense industry against modern-day security challenges. You know what to do. We're joined once again today by Mike Frieder, President of On-Call Compliance Solutions and a CMMC professional assessor. Thanks for joining us, Mike.
Hey, always a pleasure, Roman. Good to see you again.
Yeah, so Mike, you actually brought this topic to our attention, so we're going to let you run with this and we're going to jump right in. This week, we're talking about modern security solutions, such as endpoint management and protection. As the intro suggested, we're highlighting Microsoft Intune, so let's get into it. In the landscape of modern security solutions, how does Microsoft Intune stand out in terms of its capabilities and features, particularly in managing and securing endpoints across various devices and platforms?
Yeah, so it's a phenomenal question. And just for the audience, a little bit of background on, kind of why we're doing what we're doing. So, it's come to our attention that there have been a massive number of very, very successful phishing attacks in the first few months of this year. And, it's, hey, look, I'm sure you're probably thinking to yourself, how could there be any more phishing attacks? But apparently there are. In in NIST SP 800-171, there are a lot of controls that dance around a lot of the concepts that are held within two key Microsoft applications. Number one is conditional access, and the other one is Intune. And so I told Roman, I said, look, I think we ought to do a podcast episode on this because I think there is a huge misunderstanding of what these technologies are and what they do and how they can help you be compliant and the overall security that they can provide your organization. And I think with that comes a much larger conversation that we help our clients have, which is a move to modern security. I think yesterday's security methods of multi-factor authentication, of secure passwords, usernames, that technology is exploitable. And that's really the biggest challenge, is that just because you have multi-factor authentication on a device does not guarantee it's not going to get hacked. It just simply doesn't. There are other ways of attacking, which is very scary too. I mean, I think the rolling key, it takes security up 1,000 notches over a password that can be left there for years at a time and ultimately discovered through brute force attempts. But Intune is an incredible technology, and it becomes even more incredible for security when you combine it with conditional access. So here's kind of the scenario, and here's also why I think it's much different than virtually any other platform out there. So number one is, remember, these are Microsoft solutions, which means for most people in the defense space, they probably have some footprint in the Microsoft environment. But let's say that you've got some information in a OneDrive shared folder or a SharePoint library, same thing, right? And that's all up in the Azure government environment. Intune is a service where you can control not just mobile devices, but any device. So for instance, we recommend enrolling computers into Intune wherever possible. So what does that look like? Well, what it looks like is it looks like essentially you go to a website, you enroll a device, and now that device is enrolled in Intune, it's tokenized to your organization, and you can control that device's behavior. You can control the group policies, you can control, any number of behaviors, what users can do, what programs they can download, yes and no, blacklisting, whitelisting. You can really control an incredible amount of behavior that the device is able to do. And here's the coolest part about Intune is that they basically got policies for all the major platforms, Windows, Mac, Android, iPhone, all that good stuff. Okay, so now we've got one thing that can manage the behavior of all devices in pretty close to the same way, and from one pane of glass. And Then you mix in things like conditional access. Okay, so conditional access has an ability to say, hey, wait a minute. If you're trying to log into your environment and you are not trying to log in from an Intune enrolled device, deny access. That is an incredible step up in security. So let me help sort of paint the picture as vividly as I can and why we think this is so important. If you are an attacker and you're trying to get in, and let's say that you've planted some sort of username, password, and you've planted something on the machine, or you've done something that allows for multi-factor authentication to be defeated, you still need the device. You still need the device, and you still need to be able to get in there. And so what conditional access is allowing us to do is stop any attempt at being made to really get through login, right? Because the first thing it's going to check for is conditional access. If it's not an Intune enrolled device, you can't let them in. They don't even see the login screen. They don't even get to play around with the password and the multi-factor authentication to see if they got the password right. It just simply locks it down so that only specified devices with specified users can have access to the information or system. That's a huge, huge step up in security. And sadly, right now, it's very rarely rolled out. We love rolling it out to our clients in the defense space because, again, we think that's pretty close to the ultimate in security. As a matter of fact, the only thing that you could really do better when it comes to security, in my opinion, is we use a solution called Threat Locker. Love Threat Locker, all right? That solution, essentially, you train it, and then it learns the applications that you've opened over, say, the last week, 2 or 3. You take it out of training mode, turn it on, and then basically what that solution does is it whitelists whatever has run in that period of learning, and it blocks everything else. And then they have another technology called ring fencing, and I'm a huge fan of that. And that technology, effectively, what it's doing is it's saying, hey, you can't run other applications from within applications. Here's a great example. Massive exploitation. Let's say you open up a program, right? Let's say you open up Notepad++, then you go to File Open, and then you go and select an executable file, like something that's ransomware-like, or even better, PowerShell. You can run PowerShell and other applications from the open screen in another application. So you open up a legitimate application, and then you started trying to pull PowerScript into play. An antivirus won't see that as an illegitimate move. They won't see that as risky behavior because you're doing it from within another application. Think about that for a second, right? Totally defeats it.
Scary.
So we use Threat Locker to ring fence around the whole idea of executing PowerShell from anything. It has to be approved out from outside, in which case we go, why in the world is this random desktop using PowerShell? This doesn't make a lot of sense. It also gets a third party looking at any kind of really new and unusual behavior, and it just simply doesn't allow anything that doesn't meet the correct hash, right? So think 0-day attacks. Any code that's not code that's already run on the machine before, it stops it, right? Cold in its tracks. We can block it. Very, very big fan of that technology. And when our clients allow us to implement all 3 of those avenues, it means that now devices can only execute what is known to be good. It questions anything else. And you can only do that from a specified user account and a specified device getting to a specified resource. It's the best that you can have in security. And so, we just, gosh, there's so many layers to this that we just kind of felt like, man, we ought to do a podcast. We ought to just talk about this because, boy, if you're just a regular IT guy trying to keep your network up, like this is alien stuff. And it certainly is not IT 101. It's, you can be the best troubleshooter in the world, but you don't know what you don't know. And the cybersecurity and information security game is a revolving door of that question. You don't know what you don't know. And, I consider it, part of our public service, part of our goals to help people to truly understand what they don't know when it comes to cybersecurity and information security. And right now, that's how we're doing it. That's how we recommend every single client locks themselves down to that degree. Why? Well, I don't know. If your business doesn't want to get hit by ransomware, if your business doesn't want to be exfiltrated and have its CUI put at risk, which nobody wants, this is the closest thing to a guarantee and I want to be clear, I'm not making a guarantee, but right now, as far as security is concerned, man, this is it. This is the pinnacle of what we've got going on. And we're not talking about this being expensive stuff. And again, the Intune license is included in most Microsoft licenses you would buy for a regular user. And Threat Locker is a couple of bucks a computer that you're protecting. So it's not, and they have a mobile app too, which is super cool. So it's to me, it's wildly impressive stuff. And but it takes knowledge of the layers, and it takes, I gotta tell you, 4 months ago, we had a joke in our office that, some of our people actually thought Threat Locker was just another antivirus. They really had no concept of what it did. And so we held some classes internally to educate them about what it is that this is doing. I mean, I'm talking about non-service people, obviously, right? Some of the people in our marketing department, whatever. So, we bring that into the forefront, and, now we're on a mission to educate our clients, and not just our clients, but everybody in the world about, what is modern security? What does it look like to be secure? What allows you to sleep good at night? What allows the organization to say, I've done enough? And if you look at the NIST requirements, sure, there are other ways to hit a lot of those requirements, but they sure do seem to be spelled out to basically point at Intune and conditional access. The threat locker thing, again, there's another control that deals with application whitelisting and blacklisting. They allow you to do a blacklisted solution. We've run that for years, but we've just simply decided that the risk is now too high for us to run across the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of clients that we serve. And so, pretty simple and straightforward. We just have to execute on making that switch to a totally whitelisted solution. And Threat Locker for us is our solution to that.
Absolutely. And this is a pretty serious topic, but I want to pause here before we get too far into this, and I want to acknowledge to you and to our listeners and to our viewers on YouTube that this is our 40th episode of the podcast.
Hooray!
I didn't want to get too far into this without acknowledging that. It slipped past me in the intro, but I wanted everybody to know this is number 40. This is a big deal. We're excited to be bringing you this information week after week.
Man, and to the audience, thank you guys for listening in. I know compliance isn't the most exciting topic, although I have to tell you, hey, that's what we're here for, right? We actually do get excited about compliance and cybersecurity, information security. I hope at least, some of you guys are getting some value out of what we're doing here. We love doing it. We do it because of the comments. We do it because, after 40 episodes, we've got a larger viewership than we've ever had before. And I think we're helping more people than we ever have before. And look, if we can help you if we can help your company get compliant, be more secure, that's what we want to do. But I think the other part of why we do this is because, the threat that's out there, from an information security perspective. I mean, on the day of our 40th episode, there happens to be a wide scale cell phone provider outage, a major, massive outage.
Yep.
It's crippling part of the country. And you know what? At the end of the day, I'm positive they're going to come out and they're going to say it's some kind of cyber attack, dangerous stuff. And, it's just kind of one of those things that I think the more people on the good side trying to protect everybody there are, the better everybody else will be. So we're happy to be that company. We're happy to stand behind that. That's a great mission. And we do all this stuff for free. And, we just can't thank you enough for listening. And most importantly, definitely hit that subscribe button. We're only getting better at this, as we work through a lot of it.
That's why we throw in a silly question at the end of these, and that's why I try to figure out fun and creative ways to throw it to the intro music for this podcast, is because we're having fun doing this, and we want to make it clear that we're having fun doing it despite the fact that we might be talking about serious topics. But back to our regularly scheduled programming.
Great call.
What's that?
I said great call. No, you're right. We need to point that out. You got it. You know what? In life, you've got to recognize the wins.
There you go. There you go. Last week we were celebrating the fact that I have a microphone. This week we're celebrating 40 episodes. Conditional access policies play a pivotal role in enhancing security posture by ensuring access to corporate resources is granted based on specific conditions. So with that being said, could you delve into some practical examples of how organizations can effectively leverage conditional access within their environments to enforce security policies without hindering productivity?
Yeah, absolutely.
That question's a mouthful.
And I spoke about this kind of in depth in the first answer, but so the prime example is when you're doing conditional access, you say, hey, um, don't allow someone to log in unless they're on a device enrolled in Intune. That's just one of a gabillion examples of what conditional access can do. It's an incredible tool, and that won't hinder productivity at all. As a matter of fact, it will help it because you'll get hacked less, right? But it can do so much more. So for those companies that are worried about data privacy, you can enforce data privacy rules. You can stop people from connecting external devices. You can just do, so many really amazing things with conditional access. And again, most importantly, you can dynamically allow and deny people access to resources within your environment. That's why they call it conditional access. So, what I would really emphasize is if you want to totally control your environment, if you want to control who's got access to it, when they've got access to it, if you want to control what they're doing with it, if you want to control what they do and don't have access to, conditional access truly is an absolute gift. And it's really cool, in my opinion, that Microsoft really puts this together. It originated out of the early days of group policy. I think group policy is amazing, but boy, has it ever evolved, especially for today's cloud environment. So, yeah, lots and lots of things. I don't think conditional access really hinders productivity, but what it sure does is it increases it by essentially limiting access to only those people who really need those resources.
There you go. 100%. As as cyber threats continue to evolve, like we mentioned, on the day that we're recording this, there's a large scale cell phone provider outage that, as you pointed out, could very well end up being a breach or a cybersecurity issue. As those things continue to evolve, how does Intune adapt to address emerging challenges, and what are some recent innovations or updates in Intune that professionals should be aware of to bolster their security strategies?
I think that's a really amazing question because Intune has continued to evolve rapidly over the last couple of years. It started out as a mobile device management platform. Heck, it started out with Windows phones, and nobody uses a Windows phone anymore. Microsoft's basically given up on it. I think that, you know, I think the world, generally speaking, is still in the rollout phase of Intune. I think that large IT departments get it. They've got to have control over devices. They've got to be able, I'll give you a terrific example. When you terminate an employee, you have to be able to get in control of their devices. And I'm not just talking about the computer anymore, it's their cell phone. Um, you know, one of our clients had an employee who was terminated, and 15 minutes later, he sent a text message to the CEO thanking him for the opportunity to work for him. On the surface, that sounds really nice until we find out that that employee was working with some very, very top secret information. And the fact that he still post termination had access to a working cell phone is a complete disaster when it comes to security. What is that guy doing the last 15 minutes? Copying all the data off. Of course he is, or I mean, I'm not accusing him of that, but the point is it's very possible. And so I think Intune has widespread capabilities to really manage that kind of a situation. Another example is, again, Intune plus conditional access. That's a new innovation over the last few years. It's just something that didn't exist before. Both of those solutions evolve rapidly, and I think Microsoft does a phenomenal job of evolving with the times and being able to put tools in place to spot attacks. So I think from that perspective, it's incredible. And I think the Intune continues to evolve and add capabilities with later and later versions of Windows on what it can control. So the ability to more tightly control behavior in desired ways is huge. So yeah, it's again, at the end of the day, the way that these things work now is they sort of put out a piece of software, but they're constantly evolving it. That's one of the reasons why you pay for it as an ongoing subscription as opposed to a one-time payment. So lot to unpack there, I know, but I think ultimately, really what it boils down to is it's all about control. It's all about beginning to move towards whitelist and beginning to move towards saying you can do this as opposed to, well, you can't do this because it's malicious, because not all attacks involve things that are malicious. And that's really the worst part.
Absolutely. So, 40 episodes in, we can't forget our favorite part of the podcast. It's time to get a little silly. Are you ready, Mike?
I am ready. I'm in tune.
Oh boy. Oh boy. Here we go. Uh, looks like Mike's getting a head start. If if you could assign a superhero power or a superhero persona, excuse me, to Microsoft Intune, complete with a cape and special powers, what would it be and why?
Ooh, does it have to have a cape?
Not necessarily, but who doesn't love a cape?
I think it would, and again, I know we love Marvel around here. So but I have to also tell you that I'm not the best when it comes to knowing my Marvel characters. I think it would probably have to be Professor Xavier because
Okay.
uh he can control people's minds and he can access things that other people can't. And of course, he can also stop people from accessing things that they shouldn't. And that is what Professor Xavier does best. He's basically kind of like well, I'd say walking, but he doesn't walk. He's in a wheelchair, but he embodies conditional access, right? I mean, he allows people access to the good things they can teach at the academy. He keeps bad people out, like Magneto. And you know what? I think Intune and conditional access combined, and maybe even when you put a little threat locker in there, oh, it's like a walking, talking, wheelchair bound Professor Xavier, right? Nobody gets into the academy, nobody messes with it. And you know what? If they do, then they just get mind controlled and they're kicked out.
Walking, talking, and wheelchair bound, huh?
That's right. All at the same time.
That's all the things. We do
Yeah.
love Marvel, but no shade to our friends at DC because just here to the right of my computer, you can't see it on screen now, but I'll move it for you, is our pal Superman.
There you
With, complete with a cape, friends. So we love capes. The only time you really don't want a cape is if you're anywhere near a plane turbine. That's pretty much the only time. But we love our friends at DC as well.
go. Or an
Uh,
L7 shredder for top secret information.
oh boy. Oh boy. And that wraps up another insightful episode, our 40th episode of Mission Compliance. We hope our
Woo!
discussion today has provided you with valuable insights, practical strategies, and inspiration to navigate the ever-evolving world of defense. We'd like to thank Mike for bringing our attention to this topic and talking about the importance of management as far as cybersecurity in the form of Microsoft Intune. Thanks, Mike.
Hey, always a pleasure, Roman.
Conversation doesn't end here. We encourage you to continue exploring these topics and connect with us via our social media channels. Share your thoughts, ask questions, and engage with fellow listeners by using the hashtag Mission Compliance Podcast. If you haven't already, what should they do, Mike?
Well, they should definitely like this episode because it's our 40th, and we'd love to set a new record for likes and hearts and all that other kind of good goofy button stuff. And most importantly, subscribe because you know what? We're putting this information out here for you guys, and we love doing it, and we'd love it if you were here on our next episode with us.
Subscribe and do that all that goofy button stuff on your favorite podcast platform to be the first to know when new episodes like this one are released. And like Mike said, we truly appreciate if you could take a moment to rate and review the show. Your feedback is what helps us to continue to do this and bring you thought-provoking episodes and high-quality content. Join us again on the next episode of Mission Compliance, where we get back into our compliance control, going down the list of those controls to help you understand CMMC, and we will delve further into the dynamic world of defense, security, and industry innovation. Until then, take care, stay informed, and make compliance your mission. See you next time.
See you, everybody.